Alright, and live from the Kenyatta University Communications Center, you are just in time for the Thursday edition of the KUTV Prime Time News. From the beat on the streets to all and everything that has been happening across our nation, we have it right here on these well-produced broadcasts by my producer Yvonne Ekemuma Monari. And to kick it off, we look at the highlights of tonight's top stories. Deputy Inspector General Eliud Lagat appears before the Independent Policing Oversight Authority over the controversial death of blogger Albert Ojwang in police custody. 2 police constables arraigned as the DCI seeks more time to investigate the shooting of Hawker Boniface Karaoke. President William Ruto leads executive retreat, touting economic reforms amid growing public frustration. Leadership wrangles deepen in Machakos County Assembly as expelled ward reps fight to return to the assembly. Alright, this is your trusted pulse of the nation with me, Emmanuel Kutosi, and the sign language interpretation will be sailing through with Sami Okelo. The KUTV Prime Time News begins now. Deputy Inspector General of Police Eliud Lagat today appeared before the Independent Policing Oversight Authority (IPOA). Lagat was summoned to explain his knowledge of the murder of teacher and blogger Albert Ojwang, who died in police custody at the Central Police Station in Nairobi. Ojwang had been arrested by DCI officers in Mawego, Homa Bay County after allegedly linking Lagat to corruption following public outrage and mounting pressure from human rights organizations. Lagat stepped aside to allow for investigations on the June 16th. And still on a similar beat, 2 police officer constables, Clinzy Barasa and Minde and Duncan Kiprop, were today arraigned at Milimani Law Courts, where the court granted the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, the DCI, a 15-day extension to conclude investigations. Their case will be reviewed on the 3rd of July. Both officers remain in custody under the DCI Homicide Unit and have been officially interdicted. Meanwhile, Boniface Mwangi Karaoke, the hawker who was shot in the head, remains in a critical but stable condition at the Kenyatta National Hospital. And elsewhere, 2 people were killed on the night of Wednesday along the Eldoret-Eldama Ravine Road in a collision involving a private car and a motorcycle at Flax Forest. Police reports the car's driver lost control while swerving to avoid an oncoming vehicle on the wet, slippery road. The vehicle rolled several times before hitting a tree. The motorcyclist survived but sustained serious injuries, including a broken leg. The tragedy striking rather along the same stretch where world marathon record holder Kelvin Kiptum lost his life last year. And into the political arena, where Kenya Kwanza leaders today reaffirmed their commitment to addressing economic challenges and delivering reforms. President William Ruto, alongside Deputy President Kithure Kindiki and Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, spoke during the 3rd National Executive Retreat, reviewing the performance of their government. They highlighted progress under the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, that is BETA, emphasizing unity, accountability, and inclusive growth.
President William Ruto urged leaders at the 3rd National Executive Retreat to intensify efforts towards the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, emphasizing the need for accountability, coordination, and effective leadership. He reaffirmed his commitment to fighting corruption and advancing key reforms for sustained national progress.
I will always be there to lead this team in making sure that we make the right decisions. And by the way, I will lead from the front. Yes, I will lead from the front. Nitakuwa tu hapo mbele. Tafadhali tusaidiane, tutembee hii safari pamoja.
Speaking at a development forum, President Ruto emphasized that meaningful change requires collective effort and strong political goodwill. He expressed pride in leading a government that embraces all communities and regions, stressing that unity and collaboration are essential for inclusive decision-making and sustainable progress.
As I said yesterday, the opportunity to have a broad-based government was God-sent. Yes. Because to be able to carry through this transformation, we need more minds, more hands, better political goodwill, a broader base to be able to carry this transformation. That is why I am very proud to be the leader of this broad-based government.
Additionally, Deputy President Kithure Kindiki defended the Kenya Kwanza government's handling of the economy, noting it inherited a crisis worsened by global shock like COVID-19 and Ukraine war.
At that time, Your Excellency and members and colleagues, as you know, there were global shocks. The aftermath of COVID-19, the war in Ukraine, high interest rates in America, which had ripple effects on many economies, including the Kenyan economy.
PCS Musalia Mudavadi praised the Kenya Kwanza government for notable progress, highlighting bold policies in economy, education, health, housing, jobs and infrastructure.
From where I sit in coordinating national government initiatives, I can say with confidence that we have endeavored to deliver on our commitments, even in the most challenging circumstances. The State Department for National Government Coordination is working closely with the National Government Implementation Committee and the National Government Administration.
With continued commitment and collaboration, Kenya Kwanza's leadership aims to overcome challenges and deliver lasting development, building a future where all citizens thrive under inclusive and transparent governance. Edna Nerea, KUTV.
Thank you, Edna Nerea, for that report. And within the same streams of the purported God-sent idea of the broad-based government, today marks 3 months and 12 days since President William Ruto and ODM leader Raila Odinga signed a memorandum of understanding at KICC on the 7th of March. Among the pledges, ending police brutality, killings, abductions, and ensuring compensation for victims, particularly those affected during the 2024 protest. But the promises now appear broken. No compensation has been issued, and the violence not only continues but has escalated, as Patricia Alex now reports.
On 7th March 2025, President William Ruto and ODM party leader Raila Odinga stood side by side at KICC, where they signed a memorandum of understanding which declared that every Kenyan has a constitutional right to peaceful assembly. It condemned police brutality, killings, and pledged to ensure compensation of the 2024 protest victims.
Leo mimi na baba tumeweka sahihi maelewano ya kuunganisha taifa la Kenya iwe taifa moja. Tulete jamii zote za Kenya pamoja.
But just 3 months later, the promises appear broken. No compensation has been issued and the killings have escalated. According to the Independent Medical Legal Unit, IMLU, at least 161 brutal incidents have been recorded since June 2024. The latest fatality reported on 17th of June 2025 involved a hawker who was selling masks, who was shot at a point blank by police officers following demonstrations over the death of a teacher and blogger Albert Ojwang in police custody. ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna declared the truth UDA as meaningless in light of the recent killings. Sifuna questioned how the state could commit to peace, then continue to abduct and kill innocent youths.
Iwapo Mkenya mwingine yoyote atachukuliwa na polisi ati abducted afichiwe mahali, chama cha UDA na kiongozi wake William Ruto watakuwa wamekeuka mkataba ambao tumeandikisha. Iwapo polisi wa Kenya hawatawajibika watoe fidia kwa familia za watu ambao walipoteza maisha yao kulingana na jinsi ambavyo huo mkataba unasema, Mheshimiwa William Ruto na chama chake cha UDA watakuwa wamekiuka mkataba wetu.
People's Liberation Party Martha Karua has strongly condemned the shooting of a man by police in Nairobi CBD during demonstrations over the death of a teacher and blogger Albert Ojwang. Reacting to a video that shows the moment that the man was shot, Karua termed the killing as another extrajudicial excursion. The united opposition has accused President Ruto's administration of overseeing extrajudicial killings, deploying rogue police units, and forming illegal alliances with gangs. The opposition bloc now says it is compiling evidence for submission to the ICC, seeking to have President Ruto held accountable for crimes against humanity. What began as a moment of reconciliation at KICC has, into the eyes of many, turned into crisis of trust, with no victims compensated, over 160 cases recorded, and youth still dying. The MOU now stands not as a document of hope, but a symbol of betrayal. Patricia Alex for Kutv.
And away from the questionable 3-month relationship, Kenyatta University came alive in a celebration of Chinese martial heritage as representatives from Shandong Normal University delivered a thrilling kung fu performance showcasing power, discipline, and cultural pride. Students and guests from KU Model School Academy, Starehe Boys Center, KU Comprehensive School, and Sukari Presbyterian Primary and Junior School were in attendance. The event honored the authentic transmission of martial arts, bridging cultures and generations. All right, and with that report, we take a short break right here on the Thursday edition of the KUTV Primetime News. And in a moment, we're about to delve into a discussion concerning matters that have been transpiring within the country, cases of police brutality, and we'll be engaging with Zadok Okoth-Nyakwaka, who is the Secretary General of the Kenyatta University Students Association, an association that has been quite on the forefront, particularly concerning yesterday's matter where one student from the Kenyatta University was caught up within the matters. We'll be coming in a short moment. Don't go too far.
Shuka akawa tuzo, ukakamavu wake, ukatii na kumfanya mwenye bidii kwa machozi na makeke, akabaini jinsi ya kuweni. Huyu ni mwanamke ngangari kwa jinsi alivyo ng'ari-ng'ari. Mimi ni mwanamke mwake. Usikose kutazama kipindi cha mwanamke mwake, nami Caroline Kimweli.
This is Earth Check, the program where we keep you up to date on matters concerning the environment, various stories on matters happening concerning conservation of our dear planet, the one and only that we have. Right here on Earth Check, we are on a series concerning genetic modified organisms.
Modified crops are as safe or even safer than traditionally bred crops.
And their impact on the environment and also their role within it. My name is Emmanuel Kutosi, and this is Earth Check.
Hi, my name is Stella Tioi.
Jina langu naitwa Okemwa Mokwa James.
This is Mandela Gaya.
Ugonjwa ulipokuja ulichukua siku 3 ukaniweka in coma. 20 wamezikwa, 2 ndio wako hai.
I don't even know how it feels to see.
I feel like I cannot express myself well the way somebody who can walk can actually express themselves.
Ilichukua muda mwingi mrefu tena mpana ili kuikubali kwamba mimi siwezi tembea tena.
I've come to actually accept myself.
Ukijaribu kumsimamisha mtu umwambie tafadhali nionyeshe njia,
They find it quite strange talking to you.
We should just make schools integrated
Inclusive setups.
by providing the right facilities.
Ni nguzo na uso wa jamii. Kupanda shuka, akawa tuzo. Ukakamavu wake, ukatii, na kumfanya mwenye bidii. Kwa machozi na makeke, akabaini jinsi ya kuwini. Huyu ni mwanamke ngangari, kwa jinsi alivyo ng'ari-ng'ari. Mimi ni mwanamke mwake. Usikose kutazama kipindi cha mwanamke mwake, nami Caroline Kimweli.
In a world where uncertainty rules and opportunities are scarce, it's time to break from the barrier and unlock your full potential.
We must live within our means. We cannot spend money that we don't have.
We will explore the fascinating world of investment, trade secrets, business strategies, and entrepreneurship.
Sasa challenges ziko mingi sana. Parking ya mzigo imekuwa mbaya. Unaweka pesa yako na kataa kurudi.
Whether you're a seasoned investor or just starting out, what you covered with invaluable insights to help you succeed.
Now, this year we have seen a rebound in the economy, which is well above the global average of the 3%.
Join me, Anyango Sylvia, every Sunday and Monday on KUTV News at 9, and let's turn your dreams into reality.
Are you an aspiring media practitioner, a graduate, or you just want to advance your skills in television production? Then welcome to Kenyatta University, where education meets innovation. KUTV, the premier university television station in Kenya, is now offering short courses in TV studio, field technical operations, and video editing. Through these courses, you will acquire hands-on skills on camera operations, media production, lighting techniques, audio-visual editing, and sound and visual control, and how to operate key equipment in modern TV control room. Enroll today at KUTV and discover your full potential in cutting-edge TV broadcasting. Graduates of these courses will receive professional certificates. For more information, visit our offices at KUTV Studios or call us on 020-870-4252 or 020-870-4255 or SMS us on 0739-110-544. KUTV, a new experience.
Are you healthy, or rather, do you maintain a healthy lifestyle? According to WHO, health is regarded as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease. Welcome to Focus on Health, a show on all matters health, wellness, and lifestyle. On this today's show, we cover a wide variety of topics inclusive of, but not limited to, dental, optical, mental, reproductive health, and so much more. Join me, Joy Bofenda, every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. on KUTV for compelling insights and discussions on all matters health. See you then.
Focus on Health, your weekly dose of health and wealth information on KUTV.
Tunachimba hadi mizizi kukuletea yanayojiri.
So mimi naomba tu serikali yetu ya Mungu, ibarikiwe na Mungu, iweze kuteremsha bei ya mafuta
yanayokukumba. Tuna maizi, tunakutetea sisiri. Kwa kweli ni speciali tukikupambia makala ya mwanamke mwake. Utasema hupendi mizizi ya habari. Nami Caroline Kimweli.
The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom.
The Bible says, when he spoke, then he spoke a parable to them, that men always ought to pray and not lose heart.
Christ says, I stand in the door and I knock. Whoever hears my voice and opens, I will dwell with him.
Like the moon, I will fade, but like the star, I will rise again. And though I fall, be rest assured that I will rise again.
Go to the hospitals, tell them that God will heal them. Go to the prisons, tell them that they'll be free. Go to the crusades and tell people that Christ is coming, and sooner than the word itself is the second advent is imminent.
Imagine a world where you are empowered to take charge of your health, where you are well informed about the latest advancements in healthcare and understand the policies that impact your well-being. Get ready to take charge of matters your health as we bring you a blend of weekly health features that engage professionals from across various medical fields.
When do you decide as a patient, do I need to go see the doctor? We are at a stage where we are seeing all this manner of chronic illnesses, and we wait until we get a disease, and then is when we go ahead.
From the most mundane to the complexities that perhaps seem overwhelming, we got you covered.
In terms of the factors that might be attributed, there are hereditary factors that could be, that means it could be genetic, so that's one factor. But there are other factors as well, like nutritional deficiencies. So some vitamins, such as folate, have been identified to be a factor in those. So
our mission is to break down intricate health topics into understandable and actionable insights. Join me, Yvonne Kimuma, every Wednesday 9 p.m. on KUTV's News at 9, where your health is our priority. Welcome to Engine, where we ask the coolest questions in science. Let's go! Is yogurt really just rotten milk? Why do humans need sharks to survive? How did a 12-year-old boy from Africa invent modern vanilla farming? How do you deliver medicine to a chimpanzee? Can poop be useful? How can you save the planet by reducing air pollution? To help us answer these questions, we are inviting some wonderful guests from the world of science. They will enlighten you, make you hungry for knowledge, oxygenate your brain, and make your ideas flow. This is Engine Season 3. Let's go!
All right, welcome back to the Thursday edition of the KUTV Prime Time News. It's also streaming live on YouTube at KUTV News Kenya. And of course, the conversation continues through our various social media spaces. That is at KUTV_Kenya on the X platform and KUTV Kenya on the Facebook platform. Now, a nation's conscience often echoes through the voice of its youth. And this week, that voice has been loud, raw, and unyielding. From the streets of Nairobi, protests have surged, not just against police brutality, but in defense of our constitutional values following the death of Albert Ojwang in police custody. The shooting of Hawker Boniface Kariuki injuries to Kenyatta University student, that is Philip Okech, and at least 20 others, as reported by the Kenya National Human Rights Commission, have amplified public outreach. Tonight, we spotlight the rising movement demanding justice, reform, and recognition. What role do students play and the youth within confronting state repression? What is the cost and the power of the youth-led activism? Joining us tonight to unpack this is Zadok Okoth, Secretary General of the Kenyatta University Students Association, who will be with us to break it down. Zadok, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'm going to go straight into it because I'd like to get your reflections, particularly concerning the matters that transpired yesterday. I'm curious to know, as a student leader, how was it for you to receive reports that one of the students who you represent within the institution had been injured in the protest, particularly knowing that they had gone to lay support rather for another youth who was lost by brutality, particularly, and because we are still ongoing with the matter, but it is quite open that he lost his life within the custody of the police. How was it for you knowing that this student is in danger, or rather is in a terrible situation, while he was going to actually look for recourse for another situation?
Once again, thank you for having me on board. Allow me to start by expressing that it's indeed a sad moment in our country, and we're actually questioning the level of state repression that the government has subjected its youth towards. The youth can no longer have their voice, the youth can no longer speak, and we cannot be allowed even our opinions to be taken for the purpose of improving governance and attaining progressive social and economic rights. The shooting of Albert Ojwang, and yesterday, receiving the news that one of our comrade, Philip Okech, had sustained a rubber bullet, stray bullet, that was shot in town, actually made me to react with shock and consternation. It was a little bit nerve-wracking to check that somebody who is innocent, somebody who is speaking their own voice, somebody who is on their mission, and a student who is actually fending for himself and working towards improving or bettering their future is becoming a subject of state repression. It's more of a grieving, and it becomes questionable whether the government is really working on a just law to ensure the state protects the rights and freedoms of its citizens, or whether the state is there to be the same that is going to injure or rather demean the rights of its people.
And perhaps coming back to the matter of Philip Okech, yesterday he was very spirited as he left the Kenyatta National Hospital. Perhaps you can give us the updates, particularly, is he okay? Is he getting better, or how is he?
As we speak, Philip is getting better because what he sustained was a stray bullet. And it's also good to clarify because I saw most of Kenyans really tweeting yesterday in the X space that it must have been a long con or a scripted state. But there is a difference between sustaining a real gunshot and a stray bullet, because this was not a targeted bullet at him. And so he got attacked at the arms and at the neck. And at the arms, there was no penetration of the bullet, but at the neck, the Kenyatta National Hospital doctors were able to extract a rubber bullet. And he's feeling a bit better. Right now, he's at KUTRH, where he's still proceeding with his medication.
We really hope that it's going to get better, and also for Boniface Karaoke, who also sustained wounds during the protest. Now, I'm going to come back to the matters of your students within an institution, and probably I think I would be safe to assume that you do understand the Constitution. You have that comprehension of it. When you look at everything that is transpiring within the country currently, what is your deduction particularly? Are the constitutional rights particularly maybe of assembling, expressing yourselves, are these rights being honored currently within the Kenyan setup?
From the word go, actually I'm also a law student, and addressing this matter from a legal aspect, we were taught by my constitutional lecturer that if one article of a constitution is violated, it's an attempt to violate the whole constitution. Take, for example, if right now somebody would decide to overthrow a sitting president, which would be termed as a treason, it is overthrowing the whole constitution. And this constitution, if you check at how the articles are attached to one another, there is a way in which they're inclined so that one article depends on another, and each article sustains one another. And if Article 37 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 provides for right to peaceful assembly and demonstration, it also means that this constitution is serving based on Article 2, that is sovereignty of the people and supremacy of the constitution, Article 1 and 2. And if this constitution must be based on the people, and these are the people who determined it and set out this right under Article 37 that they can be able to demonstrate, assemble, then you are not giving these people a chance to assemble, demonstrate, or picket in the name of you are micromanaging or stage managing your own policies that you want to be implemented without having a basis. Then to me, it is an overthrow of the whole constitution, and there is no just law, even for people who are arrested during protest to be prosecuted or to be taken for trial. Because if they are being taken for prosecution, what happens then with Tanui, who shoots a protester, who shoots somebody who is just selling mask innocently, and then you say that this person has violated the law by making a violent demonstration that you cannot prove, but the person who has been the killer goes out freely without anything happening. The criminal justice system of our country is very unfair, very unjust, and it lacks transparency absolutely. So,
Sadok, I'm going to come back to you. We're talking about the Constitution, and the matters, actually, you've noted that you're a law student, which means you have authority in this place. I'm trying to gauge, particularly right now we have a case of an uprising generation that is becoming quite politically aware. That is the Gen Z population, and also the youth as a whole. So my query is here, because I'd like you to actually give me more clarity and maybe shine light into this matter. When one part of the Constitution is maligned or violated, as you've alluded to, from your view, particularly as a young person, and then as a Kenyan who's a young person within the Kenyan setup, what are the risks of this?
Violating the Constitution or violating any part of the law would definitely mean that we are trying to degrade the rule of law itself. And where there is no rule of law, you can imagine what kind of a country setup it would be. And we need not to forget, we are moving into a generation of elites, people who have gotten basic education, people who have been educated and have been trained. And there is a contrast between our generation and the generation that have existed previously. But what we need to appreciate that Kenyans do not forget where they came from. We still remember the aftermaths of the post-election violence in 2007, 2008. We still remember the unjust nature of the independent constitution, one that the state had absolute power, and even if you check at the criminal system and the theories of punishment, one that used to apply what we call retribution theory, where it was an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But as a country, we have appreciated our progressiveness up to the level where we can now say there is a rule of law, and nobody is above the rule of law. Whether it's a sitting president, whether it's a mere person from no background, whether it's a refugee who has sought refuge in Kenya, Nobody is above the law, and that law is expected to treat everybody in an equal manner. And therefore, if we are actually trying to violate our own law, then we are just going back as a country to where we came from, where people were being arrested and detained. We had people like Mheshimiwa Raila who are talking about how many years they spent in jail, because even the sentencing policies and what used to exist was not based on a constitution that was fair, a constitution that was checking on balancing between the rights of an individual, the rights of another person who has been aggrieved or whose rights has been injured, and the person who has actually found themselves as victims or accused of violating those rights. And that constitution was progressive to the extent that it now discovered what are the circumstances that something can happen. And if we are not going to obey the rule of law or follow our constitution, then to me, our country, we are just going back to the post-independence era.
And perhaps when you look at the protests that were held, particularly on Tuesday, I would like to pick your mind and gauge this. What message, particularly, let's imagine maybe you were not among the protesters, but you represent a group of young people who, if one was there, maybe a significant majority was also there. What is the message, particularly when protesters, in their capacity of expressing themselves, particularly in a peaceful nature, are met by the brute force of the police? What is the message when bullets meet the banners to you?
The message that the government is trying to relay is that it has failed on its duties, because the state has a positive obligation towards protecting the rights of its citizens. And when the youth go out there to protest or assemble, they have a mission to achieve. For example, last year, people were on the street to say no to the Finance Bill 2024, which had punitive clauses and propositions that Kenyans could not withstand, knowing that we are a third world country and we know our economic level. This year, Kenyans have been having a clerical call that we want victims who lost their lives during last year's protest. We want victims who have been injured but are still recuperating to be compensated by the government. But that does not happen. The same Kenyans have been extending their voices towards various contentious issues that keep on arising, including corruption within the government that has affected various sectors. And even when we go peacefully to talk about this to the government, nobody hears. People resort to street, because even if you ask government now to provide the statement of who have they compensated, since the state and the police, because they act on behalf of the state, took so many lives last year during protest and injured so many people, they cannot provide that exact accountability. What is there is too much promises without action. And this is what the Kenyans are going out to speak about. And as a representative of students, I'm not just speaking as the Secretary General of Kenyatta University, but I represent the wider majority of students in the whole republic, and I understand the context under which comrades are staying and are living. Even to sustain their own lives and to sustain their basic requirements, sometimes, most of them, it's a hell. I've had the privilege to serve as a Secretary General, but some of these we can curb when we have a government that realizes we should implement progressive social economic rights. And this is what we've been asking for. We've been asking for a government that can acknowledge that when we are under funding of Higher Education Loans Board, the HELB, that it should be released in time so that students are not calling off for the semester and failing to complete their studies in time because of unnecessary delays. When we are on the street, we are calling upon government to listen to us and intervene in matters, new funding model, and agree that the type of information being gathered through the AI, that is the means testing instrument, does not necessarily have factual background of where students are coming from. And we are even suggesting that let them use the sensor mechanism where they can even use Nyumba Kumi initiative and the chiefs to know the actual data of the student level. When we are on the street as comrades, we are talking about the accommodation prices in our universities that we cannot afford. And these are things that government can address, because if you can donate an offering in a church each weekend of 20 million, then this money, if it was to be channeled even through constituency development funds, it was to be channeled to bursaries and given to counties, it could be able to salvage a great population. And that is our message on the ground, that the government is not listening. We are trying it in a peaceful way, nobody is listening. We are trying through protest we are being killed.
And perhaps to narrow down our conversation, because we are talking about particularly the violence meted by police officers on protesters. You've alluded to various issues that are out there. Is it right to assume from the revelations that you've made that we are bound to face even more protests going forward?
What we have to acknowledge is that power belongs to the people. And when people decide, they take the power from you or they give it to you. And we cannot say that there will be no longer protest if we don't have a solution to the clerical call that Kenyans have been making. These young people have been making out there, have been projecting their voices out there, claiming something that they want to be done, but nobody is actually paying attention to what the young people are asking. And therefore, you cannot expect any better solution than more protest. And one message that I want to say, that you may kill the messengers, but you cannot kill the message. The message will still be there, and until we have a sanitized country, a country where there is going to be absolute transparency and accountability, then what you expect is even worse scenarios.
And just not to move in that direction, I'm looking at the fact that although we had a lot of, for lack of a better word, weird reports after the death of Albert Ojwang, I'm looking at the various instruments of justice moving in step currently. What is your look on this? Does it spell promise, particularly in matters of seeking justice? And also, perhaps I'd like to know, how do you feel about the fact that we had a first report that alleged a certain thing had happened to the late Ojwang, and then a subsequent report that would come out unearthing more and more? First, what is your feeling concerning that as a student leader, particularly concerning such matters, because they touch on young people, they touch even on the general Kenyan populace in matters of security, and at the same time, that we are seeing the cogs of justice somehow being in move. Does that spell promise?
There is no promise in our Kenyan state, and even the moves that have been taken and even the initiatives do not in any way justify the means. You cannot compare the life of a single Kenyan and equate it to a financial value or an amount. And what we need to acknowledge is that this is not an isolated case. These cases have been recurring repeatedly, and even after the murder of Albert Ojwang, there has been another murder. There has been other more injuries. So we cannot talk of promising Kenyans that everything is getting on well, when what you are trying to do is just to continually justify the means. To me, the death of Albert Ojwang must still be probed into, and the killers should be prosecuted, and if possible, we should at least see our law coming into an effect. Having learned some few elements of criminal law where somebody who murders is expected to serve a life sentence, at least we should see some of these constitutional articles coming into life so that we can appreciate the rule of law. And the death of Albert Ojwang, to me, it doesn't matter how many millions is compensated to the family, how much is given. This is just a single isolated case. But what about the other Kenyans, which is no longer a topic of discussion? Right now, Albert Ojwang's issue is the one on the current trend. We have called for government to expediently act on various issues, but there is no action, including compensation of the victims that were injured and over 20 comrades that appeared in the protest of Tuesday. The guy who was just selling his mask and was shot. But you will hear all these become stories, and next week, it's again a different story. We don't have any promising.
And Zadok, I have to ask you this, because we are seeing a lot of rather losses within the protest. My question to you is this: as a student leader, as a youth leader, as a youth yourself, do you believe that the motion of protest is the only cause that we have as young people of reshaping?
Well, I would answer it in two phases. As we speak, once you have made a government, the government has time limits to serve, and the government has jurisdiction within which it should serve its people. And for the youths right now, what we expect is the government implementing the policies appropriately and correctly, implementing the promises that were given to Kenyans, realizing our economic potential, and also ensuring absolute transparency and accountability among state officials, civil servants, so that we are able to utilize the resources that we have. But the other tool that the young people have is to exercise their political rights under Article 38. We are approaching a general election in 2027, and it's again another chance that we have to make a structure of a government that we prefer, a structure of a government that can be able to heed to the people of Kenya, a government that can be able to understand our economic dynamics and can be able to deal with the elephants that we've been talking about in the country. That is one of them, corruption.
And Zadok, as we finalize, because I'm being told we are pressed for time, I'd like to get poke your mind on this. When the protests were happening, we saw the youth out there on the streets, but there was another section of youth who were beating people with clubs, robbing them within the streets, moving around, and in the subject of being goons. But they're also young people, if you look at them. They are another group of youth. What does this speak to the idea that the youth want to reshape the design of Kenyan politics while we see such things coming about? What does that speak out, particularly in a generation that wants to be trusted with the running of this nation?
There's a quote that goes, poverty is the enemy. And when I see a group of youths are in the street to demand for certain rights to be guarded, or rather be implemented by the government, and again a faction of youths are also there to counteract them, it only justifies that statement that poverty is the enemy. These are youth that, to me, I believe are being misused by politicians, by those who are perpetrating their own wills and those who want their own good, self-centered cartels within the nation. And what I could say, that it's unfortunate that as a country right now, Kenya, we are crippling at a horsey and buggy pace towards gaining a cup of coffee at a lunch counter. That at a time when the youth should speak in a united voice and identify their mission to ensure it's achieved, that a faction of the youth would still be subdued and be divided by politicians using petty cash so that they can be able to counteract themselves and to create unnecessary tension and conflict. To me, that is very unnecessary, and I want to send a stern warning to our youths that it is us to protect this country. It is us to own this country, and it is us to guide our future. And it's also us that we can either destroy the lives that we have or make them. If we are not going to talk in unity and identify that this is the mission, we want a fair economic country, we want a country where education is accessible to all categories of people, that we are still going to be divided into factions based on small petty cash and bribes and money that is being obtained through corruption, then we are still having a long way to go.
Thank you very much for that submission, Zadok Okoth, Secretary General, Kenyatta University Students Association. A very impactful discussion we've had here, particularly trying to probe the various issues that are facing the youth, and the responsibilities particularly that young people and also students have, because the nation indeed is ours. Thank you very much, Zadok, for that submission, and we really appreciate you coming by KUTV to give us a piece of your mind. Now, leadership tensions continue to deepen in Machakos County. Today, the County Assembly Speaker and his allied MCAs returned to the court, seeking to block expelled MCAs from attending assembly sessions, reigniting the battle that has plagued the county's legislative operations.
Machakos leaders led by lawyer Dastan Omari have filed a petition at the Machakos High Court seeking to nullify a previous ruling that allowed the 9 expelled MCAs to return to the assembly after they allegedly disrupted its order under the leadership of Majority Leader Nicholas Nzioka.
Tunasema mambo zile order zilipeanwa hapa, zilipeanwa bila mahakama kupewa ni nini hasa kilichotendeka. Kwa hivyo hilo ndilo jambo la kwanza, ya kwamba hii mahakama ndiyo itakuwa na jurisdiction wakati ambapo wale wabunge wameenda kwa appellate process na kukamilisha zile appellate processes.
According to Omari, the High Court violated legal procedures by allowing the expelled MCAs to return to the Assembly without following the formal procedure of seeking approval through the relevant committee that handles Assembly disciplinary matters.
Tumeeleza hii mahakama ya kwamba haina jurisdiction, sababu lazima ule mbunge atakayetimuliwa na speaker arudi na afanye appeal katika kitengo maalum kilichotengwa katika sheria. Akishakataliwa katika ile appeal, ndipo atarudi mahakamani. Kwa hivyo hii koti haina jurisdiction.
Condemning statements made by Governor Wavinya, Omari accused her of allegedly leading a group of citizens to disrupt assembly proceedings and forcing the speaker to walk out of the session.
And we have information that illegal extrajudicial utterances have been put to place to eject our client from her lawful office, where she's discharging her lawful mandate as the Speaker of the County Assembly of Machakos.
As the leadership crisis in the Machakos County Assembly escalates, operations within the Assembly have been severely affected, consequently hampering service delivery to residents of the county. Pesi Achola, KUTV.
Speech continue to rise in Kenya, especially during politically charged moments. UNESCO, in collaboration with the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, NCIC, and other stakeholders, today concluded a two-day workshop focused on education as a tool to prevent incitement and foster lasting peace. But behind the dialogue lies a troubling reality. Some of the most influential voices behind hate speech are also some of the most celebrated in society. According to Charlo Mwengi, Deputy Director for Legal Affairs at NCIC, arrests related to hate speech often trigger public sympathy, turning enforcement into a human rights debate.
When we arrest one or two culprits, people who are perpetrating hate speech, it becomes a very huge human rights issue. But we look at the UK, following the unrest with the illegal migrants. We had about 561 people arrested and prosecuted following the US elections and the storming of Capitol Hill. We had a huge number of people who had engaged in it, and it was not a human rights issue. So those are some of the clawbacks we have.
Additionally, Charlo also pointed out that higher unemployment among Kenyan youths has made them increasingly susceptible to online incitement and political manipulation.
Has been idle for quite some time. We have the youth fund, we have the famous hustler fund, and of course the government is carrying out some projects that are saying they are supposed to resuscitate the economy so that people are able to access funds. But then the young guys are also very mad. They're saying, no, we all can't work in construction.
The approach was echoed by participants who called for more proactive integration of peace education in both formal and informal learning spaces.
I think resource funding and awareness. Many people aren't aware of how such situation can cause a lot of damage. They just do it because everyone else is doing it, so why will I not do it? So I think there should be an awareness that is brought to the youth, especially the youths. They need to learn that there are consequences for these actions, because even in the constitution, like, such things exist. Like, if you talk badly about me or you make fun of me online, I have the right to sue you.
So what we can do is to keep talking on medias, on some international meetings that it can go abroad.
According to Mamadou Lamine, UNESCO's regional coordinator for education, the initiative aims to equip educators, policy makers and communities with a tool to identify and respond to hate speech early, particularly within schools and digital platforms.
Education, we think that is the most powerful tool to install some skills and skills and competencies with teachers, with learners, to combat the root causes of hate speech.
With rising political temperatures and growing online hostility, conversations like these on countering hate speech through education are becoming more and more relevant. Yvonne Kemuma, KUTV News.
Thank you, Yvonne Kimumonari, for that report. Now, a group of young innovators is turning trash into treasure through a sustainable initiative that is transforming lives both economically and ecologically by recycling waste into valuable exports products. These youth are not only cleaning the environment, but also making money in the process.
The heart of Malindi's Central Business District. Waste is not just waste, but an opportunity. More than 20 youths have come together to transform discarded materials into income-generating products, proving that innovation and sustainability can go hand in hand. Through partnerships with other companies, these youths have found purpose in plastics, tires, and old fabrics.
Kuna wakati niliona Alice ile kazi anafanya, ikanipendeza, nikamapproach, nikamwambia nifundishe na mimi ndio niweze kujisaidia kimaisha. Akakubali, akanifundisha kutengeneza. Haikuchukua muda mrefu kujua kwa sababu si ngumu sana, lakini napenda passion. Kazi yake hizi bags zinatoka kwa hizo mikebe, zikikuwa trimmed, ziko traced kwanza, ziko trimmed, alafu sasa zinatobolewa, tunashona kutumia uzi.
Samson Kahindi, a designer, says the production process begins by collecting used plastic containers, mostly oil cans, which are cut, shaped, and stitched into designer handbags, shoes, and jackets. These items are then sold in international markets, particularly in Europe.
Mkebe ya oil lakini iko wastage. So ikiletwa mimi nakata kutumia makasi. Alafu ndo nachukua hii sampuli na trace. Naikata, alafu nikishamaliza sasa nampatia yule mwenzangu pale anatoboa.
Na ukishaikata na hii design
ukishakata na hii sasa unachukua hii design unaitoa, alafu unatoa pembe, kuko na kona kona, alafu ukishamaliza sasa ndo nampatia yule mwenzangu pale.
Charongonyo, once a traditional beadwork artist, has now embraced modern recycling as a source of livelihood, crafting fashion from what many would consider trash, but it is more durable and marketable.
Sio ambao wanafanya mambo na recycling ya hizi plastics. Lakini first time siku wanafanya hii, nilikuwa nikifanya hizi maridadi za shanga, lakini baadaye nilipokuja kumuona kama miaka miwili tu hiyo ilipita, nikaja nikampata huyu mama kwa sababu alikuja akanipa design kama hii nimfanyie. Nilipoifanya ndo akanijoin na hiyo MSO. Sasa nikafanya hizi, baadaye akataka sasa tutumie hizo recycle. Tukaanza kutengeza hizi, unakata hii bagi, unakata alafu unaipeana kwa mtu anashona hizo maridadi. Thereafter katika hii handle unaiona hii, hapa ndani kuna plastic. Sasa lazima ukate plastic uingize hapa ndani ndio ufunge. Sasa nimeona hii kazi nzuri kwa sababu mara ya kwanza hata nilikuwa na workshop yangu, lakini kwa sababu niliona hii kazi ni kama ninasafisha mazingira, nikaona nitoke kule nijoin na hii.
Chairperson of Progress Welfare Association of Malindi, Kate Mwikali, added that the move has helped in creating jobs for the youth in recycling. For them, cleaner streets, mean more raw materials for the youth's creativity and a cleaner, greener Malindi.
We want that particular hub to also have some seedbed or seedlings of indigenous plants found in this particular area. So it is more, the impact is more than just the creation of jobs, because sometimes we are just transactional. We are thinking about it's just jobs that have been created. But since we started the cleanup and this partnership, we've seen about now 5 recycling companies coming. The companies are buying products from plastic to metal to bones that are being now upcycled into other products. We've seen that also, you know, in relation to this, you find that because there's now people realize there's cash in trash, we've also having a bit of challenges, because now you find also more theft is coming onto the products because we were not taking care of the products. We were treating waste as just trash. But now in the police, you find there are actually reports on people stealing plastic.
Finished products like handbags, shoes, and jackets are not just fashion items, but are symbols of transformation, resilience, and hope for a generation finding solutions in unlikely places. From waste to wealth, these young innovators in Malindi are a living proof that with creativity and purpose, trash can become treasure. Paulette Akoth, KUTV, Nairobi.
All right, we are hastily into the sporting arena, where the High Court in Eldoret has once again postponed elections for the National Olympic Committee of Kenya, NOC. Justice Ruben Nyakundi issued a temporary injunction pending an inter-parties hearing on the 23rd of June following a petition filed under certificate of urgency by Jocelyn Lea Nyambura, Francis Paul, Andrew Modibo, and the Kenya Table Tennis Association. The elections initially scheduled for the 23rd of April stalled after disputes among 4 federations over voter representation. Three minutes past the top of the hour, and we do appreciate the whole group and the whole team involved in the production of tonight's broadcast right here on the Thursday edition of the KUTV Prime Time News. That is all we had scheduled within the time frame, and perhaps some of the reports that I can be able to highlight is that the Finance Bill 2025 has been passed, and now the bill is moving over to President William Ruto for assent and to be adopted as the bill that will be able to course Kenya through the next financial year. Among the issues that have been struck off include the contentious clause on giving the Kenya Revenue Authority access to personal data, which will be struck off, and also the counties that were proposed to get 405 billion shillings in matters of equities will now get 415 billion shillings. The other matter would be that Boniface Kariuki, the hawker who was shot at point blank range, is undergoing has undergone a second surgery and is recuperating, as we hope for the best for him. And also our very own Philip Okech is also recuperating at the Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital. All those reports we'll be able to dive into tomorrow, but for now we settle in as the people of Kenya, appreciating life and appreciating all that is, as you look and probe on matters that are of public concern and also that are very key, particularly from here at KUTV. From the whole team, including my very own producer Yvonne Kemma Monari, it's a good night from me, Emmanuel Kutosi, and the sign language interpretation, Sami Okelo. Good night and see you next time.
Maelfu ya wahamiaji wakiwa na watoto kutoka nchi za Amerika ya Kati wanaendelea kuwasili kwenye mpaka kati ya Marekani na Mexico.
The folks are going.
Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Ni habari kutoka pembe zote duniani.
Pepo pasi vuguvugu. Pepo pa ni idea.
Sazidi ananyonya, hanyonyi vizuri, anakuwa hayuko comfortable.
Jeshi la Jamhuri ya Kidemokrasia ya Kongo linapambana na waasi wa ADF.
Kwa sasa wanatoa wito kwa mashirika, makampuni na vile vituo vya uchukuzi.
Mambo mengi yatakwenda kama yalivyopangwa.
Hapa ni kuna mmoja wa viongozi wa chama cha wavuvi katika eneo hili.
Zaidi tunajaribu kuwapa chanjo ili ina boost ama inanyanyua kinga ya mwili. Hiyo inaenda kupelekea kupambana na virusi.
Ni duniani leo, Jumatatu mpaka Ijumaa, moja kwa moja kutoka VOA Swahili, Washington DC.
Mtazamaji popote ulipo, unapokuwa ukitazama Safina Show
inang'oa nanga sasa hivi. Ungana nami Albanas Mwania, nahodha wa Safina Show, nikutoe ng'ambo ya pili hadi ufuoni. Safina Show, sauti ya matumaini.
This program is rated 16. The content is restricted to only those above 16 years.